What's going on, guys? Graham Ramina here with FanSided Hidden Remote.com and head of Young Rock Season 2, Episode 6, airing a little bit later today. This is going to be dropping at some point this week. We're talking to Andre the Giant himself, portraying Andre on the show, Matthew Willig from both Season 1, Season 2. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Matthew, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, man. Thanks, Graham, for having me. It's good to be here. Yeah, I'm excited for tonight's episode, and it should be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, man. And just talking to you right now, it's weird to hear you speak normally because I'm used to seeing you the last two seasons, hearing the French accent. I know you've talked about it before, but going from Season 1, Season 2, not having the accent, obviously you're a very established actor. Talk a little bit about how it was getting back into the accent and kind of nailing it for Season 2 after doing such a good job with it with Season 1.
Well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot. That wasn't an easy thing to sort of work on. But it was tough. It was funny because when I got back to Australia for Season 2, not having really done it too much, audibly, and I got really nervous the first day. Am I going to see? You want to at least sound the same, and so I kind of fell into it pretty quickly anyway. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's one thing to have sort of a French accent. But Andre was very adept at sort of mumbling, his words, and so it's always interesting to do a take or do a scene on camera and then kind of look over and say, okay, was that audible enough? Was that something that people can understand? So it's kind of funny.
That is kind of funny that you mentioned that. You kind of have to do not like a poor job, but you have to like not speak clearly in certain ways, especially like on this episode airing tonight. It's pretty obviously this is like the episode's all about you and Young Rock, no pun intended, which is great. But no, it's funny that you mentioned that. And getting back into the accent, like, did you already have it stored in the back of your head, or going into the second season in between seasons with the hiatus, did you have to go and do that research all over again and listen to interviews and watch all that other stuff?
Just was kind of the thing. I definitely went back and watched videos and sort of, you just start doing it yourself. You started just talk, in fact, my daughters were laughing at some point where we got close to it. I just started speaking or answering in Andre speak. And so they got a big kick out of that. But yeah, it's just, again, it's like being on a bicycle, like that kind of an analogy, once you kind of do it, it's just kind of doing it again, getting used to doing it. And, in fact, like I said, the first week I told the producers and the director, I said, look, if you think I'm sounding a little off, let me know right away so I can kind of play with it a little bit. But luckily, like I said, it came back pretty quick.
Was the wrestling stuff kind of the same thing as far as getting back into the ring and doing the physical side of it? Was that kind of easy to find your footing with again, or was there a bit of an adjustment period there for you?
There's always an adjustment. Wrestling is its own entity. It really is, but obviously my background is being an athlete. So that sort of training comes into play, being a gym rat for the most part, for me. So all those things kind of come back. It's just, everybody mentions Chavo Guerrero, who was our fight coordinator, and he's just so good at, number one, making things simple, making it easy for us. If we want to push it, we can push it, but always just kind of staying within ourselves. And so that kind of part makes it easy. And on top of that, Andre, was not he wasn't flying around and he wasn't jumping off ropes. And, his moves were simple, strong, strength, slapping, those kind of things. So that stuff's always easy to get back into.
Like you said yourself, you have that football background. You're already an athlete. You have an advantage in that respect. So even going in, not into the second season, but just the show itself, landing a role like this, do you have the mindset of like, not that it's going to come easy for you, but do you feel like you have an advantage with the football background and knowing that if you watch up on Andre, even without being a wrestling fan, if you look up any Andre match, and especially back then, 30, 40 years ago, they weren't doing the flips, and especially Andre. I mean, he could do some impressive stuff for a guy of his size, but does that kind of ease your mind knowing a little bit, all right, this isn't going to be too tough with the wrestling side of things?
Yeah, it's sort of a flip side answer. It's yes and no, because it's a false sense of security because I'm an athlete, but then again, like I said, wrestling, once you get in the ring, I remember the first time I got in the ring in preparation for Season 1, and I came away day one with bruises on my back. If you don't hit the ropes the right way, you don't bounce off. It's legitimately, a taxing and physical thing. So there was a little bit of, hesitancy and fear a little bit that, hey, can I do this? Can my physical and my athletic ability transfer over? Luckily, it said, if you're an athlete, you can adjust pretty quickly. And again, with the tutelage of Chavo helping us out, everything went pretty good. Hey, listen, man, all of us who do these things for Young Rock, we're actors first. A lot of us are athletes secondary, but we didn't have stunt doubles. Everyone did their own stuff, which is pretty darn impressive. Season 1, we did our big wrestling scene, and all those things are done by the actors themselves, which again is pretty impressive.
I know a lot of wrestlers. I'm a big wrestling fan. I've been following it for a long time. And I know a lot of people that watch the show, both wrestling fans and non-wrestling fans, people that just so happen to just watch the show as it's a quality show, not just for the wrestling. But right. I do know of wrestling fans and wrestlers themselves who both watch the show and have talked about how everyone's role. I told Stacy, I told Joseph how, and you yourself, Matthew, how like you guys perfectly portray these characters. I mean, you yourself on screen with the accent, like we just talked about, the wrestling side of things, and even on this episode too, just the little things that I think you guys nail about these characters. It really is amazing to see on screen. And with that being said, have you gotten any feedback like that from really anyone, I guess, whether it be people watching the show, actual wrestlers, even just friends and family, just hearing, wow, you've really nailed that part of Andre the Giant, anything that's really stuck with you?
Yeah, I've been very, very fortunate. And there have been some people through social media that have really been kind. And, people that sort of knew of him back in the day and had seen him and watched him wrestle and things like that. No one specifically that I could say, hey, this guy who you might know said something. But I think it goes back to literally just being on set and walking around going, holy crap, Kevin Makeley, you are epitomizing, Macho Man.
Yep.
Look at Samoan. When you look at the real pictures, Dwayne, kind of posted real pictures and then how they morph into us. And it really is amazing. Season 2, even more. There's some things coming down the road where we have some wrestlers coming that everyone's going to go, oh my gosh, these guys like literally look exactly like, who they're portraying. So it was really cool early on, just from the producers and the directors who were involved in season 1 to say, you're right in the lane of where you're supposed to be. And you really, when you, like you said, when I step on set, I try to really sort of epitomize, the essence of who Andre is. I take it seriously. I think it's, it's something that when you're playing someone iconic like this, it's important. I'm going to put my own spin on it. I'm going to do the best I can for my physicality and whatever. But, gaining the weight that I did, that I still do in between seasons or for the seasons is a tough fit. It gives me that feel and that look that I need sort of to have that Andre, sort of essence.
How does that happen? How do you gain the weight for a role like this, and what kind of goes into it? I'm not a young man, I'm 53 years old. So, I just started eating. I just started eating my butt off, and I started trying to do it slowly and sort of healthy, I guess, if there's a way to do that. But, it was one of those like midnight feeds or, eating whatever I wanted for a while. And the second I'm done with the season, I try to get back and lose as much as I can. I'm big no matter what, I normally hover around 300 pounds, but to get up to 330 pounds for the season, of shooting, it's a chore, and by the time the season's over, my knees and my back are kind of sore. And again, in reality, it's something that I really felt was important to kind of help portray, who Andre was and sort of have that big feel, that feeling of just that oversize, that mountainous of a man. Yeah, that larger than life persona that he really brings to the screen. Right. And just in anything too. There's like a million different interviews out there with him, documentaries. I know there was a bunch done, especially in recent years. Yeah. And one of the big things that kind of hammer home in those documentaries is how for as big as that guy was and all the things he could do, he lived an uncomfortable life, not a bad life, but an uncomfortable life. And just as far as the traveling with the wrestling and being on planes and in cars and stuff like that, maybe not quite to the extent of Andre, but did you feel going into a role like this that you could kind of relate to that, just being a big guy yourself, as far as being a little big too for the world, I guess, so to speak?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. 100%. I'm 6'8" in real life. And, like you said, just getting on planes, there's times when I'm not in first class, and you're just sitting in a regular seat. And for me, so yes, the bottom line is I felt that getting into cars, getting into Ubers, just little things like that, getting into restaurants and having a bad booth or a bad seat, all these things that sort of add up, to having that same feeling. Again, not to the extent as a 7-footer might have, but definitely. Just even, people have noticed, just me walking around, my daughters will say, oh my gosh, those people are staring, or those people are noticing your size. Just having that persona of being a big person in a regular world kind of thing, it seems silly, but those sort of things really kind of help you as you're portraying a character like this, and sort of having that feeling of being an abnormally large human being in a regular world, which
yeah. I mean, just kind of going off of that too, is it something that you just kind of get used to, or you just find different ways to just manage it, I guess, as far as
I get used to it. People say to me, do you hear people talking about you? Do you see people looking at you? And it's just sort of, it's the way that it is, I mean, I'm flattered by 99% of it. People are just curious and cool, and they want to say hello or whatever. But I mean, come on, it's not all bad. Let's just say that, But I've learned to kind of live with it. I've done it all my life, playing football even, and having a little bit of, recognition from certain people, in the football world, and just having that for a while. I've been accustomed to it, so. It's nothing new, but something I definitely used in the research for Andre.
Yeah, and in doing football for so long and now being an actor for so long as well, is it cool to be kind of doing something else that you enjoy and giving back in a different way without the physical? I mean, obviously you're still doing physical stuff, especially on this show, but compared to football, you're not taking those bumps, so to speak, in wrestling terms and stuff like that. Is it kind of nice to not have that aspect of it, as far as the acting goes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like you said, don't get me wrong, there are times when I can be doing a stunt or something physical on set where you have to do it 30 times in a row, where you're going, this is as bad as hitting somebody on the field. Yeah. But just using a different part of my brain, going from sort of that, let's say, a right brain mentality to sort of an artistic brain mentality, and just using that part. It gets as far as deep as, you talk about CTE and the things that are going on with football players and how they're struggling with that post-career. The ability for me to be able to, use my brain and keep it active and study and reading lines and learning are helping me. That's where the mental part of it goes. Physically, I'm still a big man, so there's days when I get up and I remember distinctly on season 1 we shot a scene where I was kind of an older Andre, portrayed kind of the later years, and I literally took on that persona. As soon as I got off, I was walking different. I was kind of feeling every bump and every bruise, and I think one of the producers even noticed it. They said, you're looking like old Andre. So there's all sorts of these things that I can rely on and sort of and grab onto, going, shit, I feel like crap today, and I can use that. But overall, man, it's just a treat to I was just telling somebody the other day, and this has been mentioned a couple of times, that I've now been acting longer than I played football, and when you talk about a 14-year football career, that's saying something. So, if there's any type of stock that I ever take, it's just the fact that I'm just completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
It's cool too.
And have a little bit of success.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of cool to think about that you're not like defined in either role. Like, you've done great stuff as an actor, and you obviously had a very successful football career. How is that for you to know that people can know you from your football days, but also know you for all the stuff you've done in acting as well? It's kind of two different lives, so to speak. It's cool.
It is, and it's a treat. it's hard to sometimes, as I'm sure you've talked to many people, it's hard sometimes to really take, self-stock in what you're doing and
For
sort
sure.
of pat yourself on the back, so to speak, as you're doing things. But when I take a second and I realize that, I'm playing Andre the Giant on an NBC TV series about Dwayne Johnson, it is mind-boggling to think where I was, 15 years ago, with that football sort of mindset, and to again have fans know me from both. Now and then somebody will say, I didn't know you were a football player, or you're acting now, so it's a crazy sort of world that sometimes doesn't mix at all. And then there are fans of both worlds that sort of don't even realize I'm doing the other. So it's really cool.
Yeah, you're at a spot now where people recognize you from both, even if they don't know about the other life, which is a pretty cool spot to be in. That you've not, I mean, to be a successful, actor or successful footballer player alone is pretty big, but to have accomplished and kind of made it, so to speak, in both fields is incredibly impressive. And obviously, I think you're well aware of what you've been able to accomplish. So to be able to kind of be able to enjoy that is pretty sweet. Yeah,
it's cool, and I'm always of that sort of mentality that it's always a struggle sort of thing. I played 14 years and to the last day I was like, I'm not very good. I shouldn't be here. It's that mentality that sort of has inspired me to kind of keep pushing to what I call prove people wrong. It's sort of those mentalities that you need to have sort of for success sometimes.
Yeah. Is that like the key piece of advice, so to speak, that you would give it to other aspiring actors and even football players and other people in those professions to prove those people, or to prove yourself wrong as well, I guess, too, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just to prove yourself wrong, exactly. And I knew when I got into this, when I started football, I was slower than normal. I was, again, stiffer than most guys, but I worked it as much as I could. Same thing when I got into this business, you're 6'7", 6'8". You can't be an actor at that height, or your roles are going to be so limited to the bodyguard or the bouncer or things like that. And, I always tell myself, why not me? That's kind of been one of those models. Why not? We see all the people breaking barriers of whatever types. Why can't I be a guy? And so that was one of my goals early on, was just to be, if there's a window of large, tall actors, why can't I be one of those guys that people would think of as, hey, let's look at Matt Willig, and see if he's got a guy that we can use. Yeah, exactly. As long as you can ask yourself, listen, I did this, why can't I do that? I mean, I've applied that same mindset to various things that I've done. I think that's a great piece of advice a lot of people can take from. And as we wind down here, season 2, episode 6, like we said, airing tonight, Kisses and Release is the name of the episode, obviously very reminiscent of the Day with Andre episode from season 1. This is a great episode. I mean, this would probably be your answer, but any favorite 1 or 2 Andre moments or episodes from the last 2 seasons or stories you could share as we wind down here? Yeah, no, I mean, I've been blessed to be, a good part of the show and be looked down as someone who was close to some influence on young Dewey as he was growing up for a certain period of his life. And, obviously season 1, My Day with Andre, was just amazing. And the way that it came out and the sweet, tender side, was really fun to not only shoot, but to kind of see on screen. And, there's a little bit of that, it's a little different this year because I think you're going to see people are going to see Dewey's in love, but yet Andre is sort of, does he want to talk about it? He's a little bit uncomfortable, You see the wine. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, but all done over fishing, which is something that I think even today, the real life Dwayne Johnson will tell you it's something that he does and he enjoys. So it's always fun shooting with Adrian. He's just I love the kid. He's so talented. He's got so anytime we get to shoot things together, we have a blast. That was one of my last days shooting this episode while in Australia, and it's a long season. We were there for a while, and sort of I remember just that even shooting that day, we were there for the whole day, and we had 90-degree weather. We had a rainstorm. We had, humidity came in for a couple hours and some dense fog. It was an amazing day with just everything included. But again, I'm just so humbled and thankful that I get to have days like this. A lot of times actors go a career sometimes and not have those moments where they can really pin and go, that was really cool. That was something that was just about me and or whoever actor I'm with. So yeah, these moments are a lot of fun, and I'm hoping there's more.
Hopefully more. I'm sure there's going to be more seasons in the future as well.
Yeah.
So I look forward to that. And before then, we got this episode airing tonight. This is going to be airing a little bit later on in the week. But the episode airs every Tuesday at 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. on NBC. New episodes available the next day on Peacock as well. People could check it out. Matthew, this is great. Like I said, you do a fantastic job as Andre. Congrats on that and all the success going forward. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Graham. I really appreciate the kudos that you gave me, and it's fun to be on the show. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Matthew. Thanks a lot. I hope to speak again in the future.
We'll talk soon.